All right, we're live. Hey, everybody. We're back for another episode of the 10X Go to Market podcast. I'm super excited to have Victoria Loewenstern on the pod today. She's the head of sales development for the Americas at ContentSquare. And she's going to be diving into all of her hot takes around why a lot of people get sales development wrong, and how to do it the right way. So I'm going to turn it over to Victoria to give us a quick background and tell us a little bit about her role at ContentSquare today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Sandy and the POCUS team. I am overseeing the America region for ContentSquare. For those who don't know what ContentSquare is, we're a digital analytics platform that's able to analyze anything across your web, mobile, or app. Been there for about 6 months. It's been a great ride so far. But that's where I'm currently at right now.
Amazing. And where did you start your career? Have you always been in sales development?
Yeah, so I started my career as an SDR about maybe like 7 years ago now. That's kind of crazy to say. 6? Who knows? I can't even keep math anymore. But I started out as an SDR, best job out of college. Like, I am so grateful to be able to have started by then. And then kind of throughout my career, I realized that leadership was a huge priority of mine. And I kind of just kept on climbing the corporate ladder, as those would say. I think starting out as an SDR, like straight out of college or as your first job, is definitely the best place to start.
I could not agree more. I think it's super underrated. Not enough people, I think, start their careers in SDR. And I think even if you plan to go into marketing or even other parts of an organization, starting as an SDR just teaches you so much grit and determination. And you learn the product, you learn the positioning, like you learn all these foundational things that then help you in other roles.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Totally. And it honestly just teaches you like everyday life skills too. And just like, I think since I started out as an SDR, like throughout my not just career, but personal life, it's just had me be more bold and really just like go after things that I want. Cause at the end of the day, like you're getting rejected so many times, like as an SDR, that it builds like thick skin to go after.
Yeah, at that point, once you've been an SDR, you can probably tackle anything because you've heard so many no's. You're never going to be afraid to go and ask for something that you want.
Exactly.
I love that. What skills, now that you're in a leadership position and you are hiring SDRs early in their careers, what skills are you primarily looking for, and how's that changed at all in recent years?
No, I would say the best skills, honestly, are people who SDR me before they even get the job. We get a lot of applicants, thank God, which is great. But the people who really stand out are the ones who message me, who message my managers. I've even had applicants like reach out to some SDRs on the team as well and just kind of like poke around and try and get information. The problem is that a lot of people don't know to do that. And it's not their own fault, right? Like if you're applying right out of college, why would you think to go and reach out to the hiring manager? Why would you think to reach out to some people within the company? So I think it's like really awesome that there's a lot of people on LinkedIn who are preaching that. So people who are looking to apply to an SDR role, like at the end of the day, just show people that you're an SDR before you even become one.
Yeah, so looking for someone who's doing the job before they're actually doing it is super important. Um, Given how much I think some of the tactics have changed around doing SDR work, do you look for different skills when it comes to, I don't know, like using AI or using video or being good at social selling?
Oh, 100%. In all my interviews, they'll ask, like, what's your experience with AI? Are you leveraging ChatGPT? Whether they're, I don't know, a few years into their career or even kids in college are using AI constantly. So, like, I want to know that, like, you're familiar with it. Is that, like, an absolute, they have to do it, but they check all the other boxes? No, of course not, because that's something that you can teach. But when it comes to, like, their actual traits, I really look for someone who's, like, hungry, who's super coachable, takes feedback. For example, in interviews, we'll have people do like panel discussions or role plays, and we'll actually give them feedback in real time and see how they apply it. because obviously you're not going to be able to tell if someone's coachable or be able to apply feedback within 30 minutes of an interview.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask anybody and you say, like, are you coachable? They're going to say yes. So
Yeah.
I love the practical, actual testing of that skill.
Yeah.
Um, AI, I think it's a bit of a tricky one where you want your team to use AI and you want them to use the tools to speed certain things up, but you also don't want, SDRs who are just like shipping AI slop.
Oh,
Um, how do you like coach on that and make sure that the line between, quality and AI slop is like maintained?
do you mean people who are on my team or people who are interviewing?
On your team, but also if it's part of how you interview, that'd be great too.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start with on our team. So, um, I think, and that's a really good question because obviously you can tell what's AI and what's not. So really enabling like your teams on the right prompts to ask, like how to use the AI, how to use ChatGPT, how to leverage, when you are sending out an email, okay, here's how you train ChatGPT, or we also have something called like DUS internally. I don't know if people use that, but um, like, because to your point, people can tell what AI is, right? Like with the dashes and the hope you're well and all of this, but actually working with your team and working with your managers on like, here's how we should effectively like talk to the team about it, and putting it to practice.
Yeah. One of the things that I really took away from our prep conversation was how you approach just overall, like thinking about sales development, and how you think about building your team. And one of the things you mentioned to me was that you think most companies are approaching SDR capacity all wrong, and treating it almost like this call center model. Can you dive into that a little bit and explain what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a lot of companies are doing it wrong. I just more so like my own opinion and based off my experience. Cause at the end of the day, like what works for someone isn't going to work for other people. Like if it works, don't break it. Right. So if companies are out there where their strategy is, okay, give as many calls as you can, call every single person within the company, and that works for them, fine. But I think sales development, just based off my experience, is like really having that multi-touch approach of like, okay, you're hitting someone on the phone, but then you're also sending them an email. You're also hitting them on LinkedIn. They're going to start to remember your name. I remember even when I was an SDR, I was like going after this one prospect and I was calling him. I sent him an email. I sent him a LinkedIn, all like over a course of days. And the guy even asked me, he's like, are you a robot? And this was before AI was even a thing. He's like, how are you doing this? And I'm like, nope, sir, I'm just good at my job. Right. So, uh, it's not necessarily sticking to just one channel specifically, but it's about like incorporating all the right channels. But again, if something's working for a company, it's not wrong. It's more so just like my style and what I've seen work specifically at the companies that I've worked for.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned, the difference between, I guess, like more of a transactional kind of like high volume play versus what you're doing, which is a lot more enterprise focused and
Mhm.
you're selling up market, and that requires that your team needs to be more strategic and data driven. Um, I guess one of the challenges there then is, and I've seen this happen, like really smart SDRs who are like really thinking through every possible angle, they end up spending way too much time on one account, and then they don't necessarily hit those like volume goals.
Yeah.
So how do you coach around that?
It's a really good question. In my previous role, we had a prompt actually in ChatGPT that I forget what it was. I forget what it looked like, but it was basically like, give me the top 3 bullet points of this account and how, effective it would be, input like the 10Ks, the research, all of this so that I can take those nuggets and put it into outreach. Because of course, like at the end of the day, like volume does matter, of course, because like how are you going to hit your numbers without the activity? But you want to make sure that it's scalable. And to your point, where SDRs have enough time to be able to, effectively like maximize it. So I would say, like, if I could quote this all down, is like build the right types of prompts in your chat GPT, like pick the right types of accounts that are in your target accounts to be able to go after. Um, And also like make sure that your sequences are tiered so that like you're spending time on the right prospects and like spending a lot of time, but then like your mid-tier and lower tier contacts, you could still touch them with like automated sequences that have like high value in them, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Is the tiering based on like above the line, below the line, or do you do okay? So it's like more strategic touches for the people you really want to talk to, and then kind of doing a little bit more volume across below the line or people who are less important to the sales cycle.
Exactly. Like something that we have is an outbound contact prioritization matrix. So it's like the ones in green, those are the ones that you should be hyper personalizing, hyper, focused on. The ones in yellows, okay, put them more in like not fully automated sequence, but more automated so that it's like running in the background, but with relevant information. And then the ones in red, don't touch. So I got this actually from Sam Nelson. So credits to him like years ago. This was like maybe 5 years ago, but it still works because it's having your team be focused on the right people and the right opportunities.
Yeah. Shout out, Sam. Great community for SDR leaders. If anyone on the call has never been to one of the conferences, it really recommend it. Like really awesome content and then also just a great way to meet other SDR leaders.
Oh, yeah. I've learned a lot of stuff from him and also like other SDR leaders in his community. So a lot of the stuff that I'm saying, it's not like coming straight from me. It's really just like experience and also networking within the community.
Which I think is such an important point. You did mention not everything that somebody else does is going to work for you,
Right.
but I think you need to do that type of networking and learn from other people to just get ideas for what you might want to experiment with. But, treat it as an experiment before you roll it out to everybody and like operationalize it with your team. But oftentimes all of my best ideas are borrowed from somebody else.
Well, 100%. I mean, that's also like throughout my career, it's not just about climbing the corporate ladder, but it's about like mentorships and who I can learn from and who I can take like different ideas from and like apply it. Um, I think that's something that, people always ask me, oh, how did you get promoted or how did you get to where you are today? And honestly, I networked a ton and I leveraged a lot of relationships and just grasped whatever I could from people.
Yeah, such an important point. And actually, it's something important for SDRs to do early on in their careers as well. I think, I think a lot of SDRs probably think, oh, I can't really use my network in order to open doors for my accounts. But I've seen this in action with some of our SDRs who are bold and they attend events. And if they see somebody from one of their accounts, they're going to go talk to them and not in a salesy way, but just start building relationships. And you never know how that person might be able to help you in the future.
Oh, 100%. That's why I also love sending SDRs to events because like they're so excited and they're hungry and they just love. I mean, I would think that, as me, I love to travel and I would love to travel for work, but it's like being on the floor and making those connections and, reaching out to people on LinkedIn and building those relationships is super important.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to something we were talking about around capacity and how you think about like modeling capacity for your team. Um, how do you think about that process? And I think when we were chatting, you mentioned like it's not about quantity because quantity has diminishing returns, but it's about like each person on the team needs to like have a certain level of quality and output. So how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it comes down to honestly like structuring your day. Something that we do with our teams is really help them time block their day because at the end of the day, like SEOs are getting pulled into so many different directions. Their AEs want them, marketing wants them. Like, so many people are asking them to do separate things, but it's really important that they're time blocking their days. So that's number one. Number two, again, it comes down to tiering. So like, what are the top accounts that you're focused on? Who are the top contacts that you're focused on? And like, I always say, make your hit list a few days before, the night before, or what have you, so that when you are calling people or when you are reaching out, you know that those conversations are going to convert at a higher rate if it's the right people and you're saying the right things. Something that I used to do, and I don't do as I say, not as I do, but I used to just write down every single hit list that I have or every single person that I wanted to get in contact with. And the only people that I would put on there are people that I know that I would provide value and be able to convert a conversation. I think I still have them in my drawers. Honestly, I should shop one day, but we'll see.
Right.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. I think that time blocking and like time management is probably a underrated skill for an SDR to understand like exactly how to manage their day. And when I personally for me when I have hired people that are fresh out of school, I think that's usually a challenge for them to understand because like again, they are eager and they'll like end up spending half their day on like one email and then you're like what happened to the volume we were trying to hit today?
Right. And I think also like, listen, I have great managers on my team. Thank God that really help the SDRs as well and like focusing. And I think it comes down to leadership too, right? Like, do you have the right leaders on your team to be able to steer the direction of the SDR and be able to coach them and to be able to say like, only focus on activities that are going to generate revenue and make you money, right? Like, don't focus on things like don't spend 2 hours on an email to someone that you wouldn't even be reaching out to, and make sure that like you guys are steering in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Everything you've mentioned, it sounds like prioritization is a huge piece of how you're coaching your team to pick the right accounts and pick the right people. What type of data are you using as part of that prioritization?
Yeah. I would say we do also use POCUS as well, but I would just say, do you mean like tools?
Yeah, like I'm guessing you have some sort of scoring. Like, can you share what goes into that?
Got it. Yeah. So we look at our ICP and where we're converting the highest. Something we're doing right now is actually looking at our deals and like seeing, okay, this person bought this, or is there a theme, or are there certain personas that are buying more right now, or certain verticals that are buying right now, and going based off that. But I think it all comes down to like ICP and who you convert at the highest, and like the overall deal size and overall deal value as well.
Mm-hmm. Are you looking at any intent signals as well, like around recent marketing engagement or recent product engagement or um, website visits, that type of stuff?
Yeah, so website visits for sure. Unfortunately, we don't have Sixth Sense or Demand Base or something like that where we've had in the past, which was super helpful and beneficial. But also marketing leads that come through or outreach we'll use as well on like how many opens we got, how many clicks did we get on a certain email, all data. By the way, ContentSquare does that for your website's mobile and app. We're able to see all the intent and around it. But so yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah,
I wish I could say we're using Sixth Sense and we're using Demand Base right now, but we're kind of getting scrappy with it based on like outreach and our MQL data and things like that.
yeah, which I think that's a good lesson for everybody. It's like you actually don't always need to go and get another fancy tool like a Sixth Sense, which is a huge investment. You can just figure things out with the data that you have often. And, you know, like at a certain point, maybe you do need to add more, but I think there's a misconception that like more data is better and that like the more signals you have, the better. But sometimes that just creates more noise for your team and they don't actually know what to do with it.
Yeah. One of our values is like be simplified or simplify. Um, and I really stand by that because when it comes to like, especially in your realm, like just simplify everything. You don't need to overcomplicate everything. Like, I don't even think SDRs should know all the intricates of a product, especially like ContentSquare is a complex product. It's a great one, but like an SDR doesn't need to know every single little thing about it. I'm going on a tandem about it, but I just think at the end of the day, like simplify everything is key.
I totally agree. And especially if you are doing something like an enterprise motion where there's going to be complexity and like the people you need to reach out to, the cadence with which you need to reach out to them, the channels that you need to reach out to them on, like you don't need to add more complexity to something like that.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me a little bit more. You mentioned that multi-touch is really important to your team. And I think some people think cold calling is dead, but you told me that cold calling is actually a key component of that multi-touch sequence. So can you walk us through what like a typical kind of sequence would look like, and what's the role of cold calling?
Yeah, I could start with the role of cold calling. So again, some of my top performers on the team are booking meetings solely through cold calling. Like I even have some SDRs that maybe they don't even use outreach that much or sequences, which again, if they're booking meetings with the right people, creating the right opportunities and hitting their numbers, fine. You don't need to put people into a sequence if you're doing what you need to do when it comes to calling. But when it comes to like an actual sequence, I really still follow Sam Nelson's Agogi, where it's like you're doing the manual research email first day, you're sending out you're calling, and then you're also sending out a LinkedIn all within day one, different times throughout the day, right? So that you don't look like spam. Um, but I would say again, it's like very simple. Like sales is very simple in the sense where it's like I always say like read the email, or if you're the other person on the other line, like would you be responding the way that you're talking, right? Like if I got an email and I saw that, would I want to respond to that? So I would just like put yourself in the prospect's shoes on like what would feel best for you, essentially, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When do you tell your team to like give up? Because, when is too much persistence actually like not going to turn into anything?
That's a great question. I would say if you're not getting anywhere with an account, like take your foot off the gas. And it happens to be actually where I've had SDRs in the past, and not necessarily like throughout my career, where like they would be chasing an account and be like, Victoria, I really want to break into this account. And I'd be like, okay, let's like if you've already sent the right amount of emails, you're calling them, you sent LinkedIn, you can't get through, like take your foot off the gas. And then most of them end up booking those meetings like a few months down the line. I actually don't think you should be pounding accounts. I think it should be like sprinkled across. Um, but that's a great point because I don't think a lot of people bring that up. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. And I've seen it in action where, there will be like consistent effort from our team for like a month, and then you just let it breathe. And then it's like they'll come back around 2 months later. It's because sometimes you can't force the timing. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, they're showing up as like high intent and high fit, but that person may not be ready to have the conversation for whatever reason, like they're busy or
Yeah.
they have other priorities. They've like mentally bookmarked it in their head, but they just haven't responded to you.
And then they come inbound. So it's like you're doing all this outbound work and then they come inbound for like a demo request. And it's like, yeah, I've been reaching out to you. Why couldn't you have just responded to my email?
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
I really want to ask you about how you do attribution, but I know that that's like a wormhole that we don't want to go down right now.
Yeah, that's a scary topic to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important. It's
Yeah. Why do you think people are always like, kind of saying cold calling's dead or just shitting on cold calling? Like, what do you think that is?
honestly, I think people just make excuses. If I'm just being honest, like cold calling isn't dead. We have great callers on the team who book great meetings. I think it's cold calling scary, right? Like it's definitely a scary thing to do. So of course people are just going to naturally say like, "Oh, it doesn't work." But like maybe because they're not as confident in their cold calling or they're not converting at the rate that they should be. But then I would just say, continue to practice. Practice in a mirror. Practice like with a friend. You don't even need to practice with your manager. One thing I will say that helps get cold calling, or at least like worked for me, was sending out LinkedIn voice notes because you're practicing like
Hmm.
shit, you're practicing just like talking on a phone, you're practicing all these things, and also leaving voicemails, I think is really big. If a voicemail doesn't convert, which like 90% of the time they probably won't, it's still helping you get that practice and like get in the rhythm of doing a cold call essentially.
Yeah. Are there any patterns between your top cold call performers that you see them do consistently, whether it's like how they approach the call, how they approach their prep, any kind of similarities across them?
I would say the ones who are cold callers are getting on the phones early. It's like they're go-getters and they're just confident in what they're saying. They are personable. They're like bringing their personality to a call as opposed to having like instead of reading from a script or like acting like a robot. And I know that's sometimes hard to coach on, right? Because it's like a personnel thing. But I always say like just throw the SDRs in the deep end. Like by week 2, you should be on the phones. Like because I think the sooner that you jump into it, like the easier it's going to become.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think SDRs end up developing that like reluctance. Like it's just age old thing. It has nothing to do with cold calling. It's just if you put something off, you build it up in your head as this big scary thing. And the longer you put it off, the more you're not going to do it. Like going to the dentist, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Cold calling is scary though. That's why I think people are saying that it's dead because they just don't want to do it because it's scary.
Yeah. Everyone wants to get away from it. They're like, let's just stay on email and LinkedIn. It feels safer over here.
Exactly. And then when things aren't converting, it's like, okay, now what am I going to fall back on? But like honestly, I give such kudos to all the SDRs who are cold calling. Like I can't say that right now if I were to get on the phone and make a cold call, I'd sound great. But that's another topic for another time where we could talk about leaders like getting into the weeds at the team.
Yeah, it does require consistent practice and being really intentional. And I think the more your reps can practice those kinds of conversations, the better. Do you have any tools for that, by the way, like for cold call practicing or coaching?
Well, we use Nooks. In my past, I've used Gong a lot. We also have Clary here. But I've also used Orem, which Orem and Nooks, I think, roll out like this like AI coaching tool, which is super beneficial. So I've used it all, to be honest. But right now we're using Nooks. We have Outreach, and then of course managers who are coaching the team.
You've been listening to the calls and yeah, in the cold call room with them and doing live coaching.
Yeah, we get on sales floors all the time, which is really fun too. So shout out Nooks because your sales floor live is really fun. So much to the point where AEs are like, "Hey, we want in on this." That's great.
Yeah, I think I love that, having some team rituals that also make the job fun. Um, Very important, especially when you are doing something like SDRing, which can get exhausting. It's monotonous. You get told no all the time. Are there any other rituals that your team does that you think are really effective?
Rituals in what sense? Sorry.
Like, do you have weekly like prospecting power hours where I'll
Oh,
be a timer, anything
got
like
it.
that?
Sorry. Yeah. So half the team is remote and half the team's in office. So a lot of our New York-based SDRs, shout out to them, go into like a room together and we'll just knock out some cold calls. We just launched PG days on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which means like no internals for the SDRs. So we just launched that last week. So I will report back up with how that effective that is. But also gamifying it, putting out spiffs, like just making it fun and exciting. I mean, I can go on a tandem about culture all day long. But it's because it's super important and really like at the end of the day, like sales is hard and calling is hard. So you want to make sure you're doing it with fun people. But to answer your question and tie it back, our rituals right now is we'll do like cold call blocks together. We have PG days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then in office is super helpful as well.
Yeah. Really helpful reminder for everybody. Pipeline is a team sport. And I think the teams that do treat it that way and create that like team like camaraderie and rituals like you just mentioned, I think goes a long way. And maybe we can have you back to do a whole other session on sales team and sales development team culture because I also think it's really interesting and like the psychology of it I think is really fascinating.
Oh, 100%. Also, if any SDRs are listening, always shout out your peers. So if someone just booked a meeting, like nothing I love more is seeing like when someone books a meeting and then other SDRs are jumping in like beast, like you got this, like whatever, and just like hyping up the other SDRs, I think makes it so much more fun.
I love that. Yeah. Love to see it. Well, we're already at our time, Victoria. This like flew by. It was so great having this conversation with you on sales development, which is always an important topic, even though everyone keeps on telling me that SDRs are dead, or the AI billboards keep on telling me that SDRs are dead and cold calling's dead. But as we know, it's going to be around forever, and we just need to invest in those foundational skills, like you mentioned.
Totally. And we do use POCUS. So, and I know that's something that we can touch base on next time. But Sandy, it was really great coming on. I really appreciate you guys having me, and I look forward to continuing to work together.
So excited to continue to work together, Victoria. And thank you so much for today. And thank you, everybody who listened in. We'll catch you at the next one. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, guys.